This week for 90 and 90, David is in Tualatin, Oregon at Summit O&P, and actually the COO of Limber Prosthetics, Walker White, flew out there to do a training and breakdown of the workflow process, the scanning process, and ultimately how a partner clinic like Summit O&P can order a limber leg for their patient. While going through this demo, Walker didn't do a couple steps that are necessary to get the final product. He did the steps and showed the full process. But like alginating a socket, right? Filling a socket up and getting a positive model. He didn't actually do that in the office. So we used some other footage from when we did that with David when we were in San Diego at Limber headquarters and kind of spliced that in there over the top to show the scanning process of that. Walker will walk you through the Limber Clinical Workflow app. This is the most important tool for any Limber partner that is fitting Unileg, as it takes you through every step and is very simple. It has a built-in scanner and all of those things. So we'll let Walker take you there and then I'll wrap it up at the end.
This is the only piece of PII. We don't want any PII in the app itself, so we just use the, we call the license plate to connect the patient to whatever system you use internally. So if you hit next, you're going to choose your workflow. The one that we're going to use today is called copy existing. You're copying existing, well-fitting, well-aligned device. Could be diagnostic again, could be definitive, whatever the case is. Limber BKS is below knee sockets. We make definitive below knee sockets because people have proven that's really comfortable. And then when we do our bilateral patient, you'll just select bilateral and it just has you do left, right, left, right, left, right as you go all the way through the app. And then we need to generate the positive model. So there are 4 ways to do it. Alginate the socket of the existing device they've got. You can have an existing plaster model, potentially some people do. Some people have fully rectified digitals, which is totally fine. And in your case, maybe you can scan the inside of a socket as long as it gets a good accurate one. We have some people who are like, I don't want to do any of it. I'll just send you the device and you do it and send it back to me. For the purposes of this, we're going to do alginate today. So we're going to choose to alginate the socket. So go ahead and hit next. Now we're going to, this is your patient information. So David, I'm going to use you in here. What do you, how old are you? You're 39. How tall are you? 6'2", which is 74 inches. Yep. Weight, what do you go? One. I don't know.
It's too early.
Oh, yeah, you're right. No. That's 74, 6'2". Yeah, okay. 165, what are you?
Oh, yeah, 160.
160, great. All right, gender, functional level. And again, functional level is, David's actually, he's a K4. Remember, the device isn't a K4 device, it's a K3 device, but we just like to know what the patient is. If you end up selecting a K2 or K2 patient, when we build the ankle complex and so on, it will be stiffer through here. It will be more platform than energy return, right? But the K3 is kind of the wheelhouse, and K1 it even gets stiffer. So we're going to say he's K4, and then his amputation side is right. Great, perfect. So now we're going to take a couple photos. So I'm going to have David stand up here. So the key to these photos are, what we're trying to get is just photographs of what does the patient look like standing in their existing device. Again, whether it's dynamically fit or aligned, doesn't much matter. They actually can just stand out right here, maybe face me here. So we'll start with the lateral amputated side. And again, you would do it just literally with the camera. But the key, the picture I'm looking for is, I don't want it taken like this where we're looking down. Like, just imagine you're a prosthetist that works at Limber. What do you want to see? I'll tell you exactly what you want to see. You want to see this photo, right? What does he look like standing, hips level, weight even? Use that photo. And then we do anterior, add camera. Anterior, umbilicus to the floor, hips level. If anything, load them more towards the amputated side than their sound side, and then one on anterior. Again, hips to the floor, kind of keep the camera straight. You don't want it shooting down, don't want it shooting up, and so on. Okay, so those are the 3 pictures we're going to take. In a bilateral, you're going to take, obviously, the other side as well. So now we're on the standing scan page. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to use the Limber Clinical App Scanner. So now we want to take a scan of the patient standing again in their device. We've taken their pictures. The reason we want this is just because of a foot like this. Because when we scan his device, he's going to take it off. We're going to put it on a table, and it's going to spring back, and I'm going to lose the alignment, right? So what I want to see here is him probably, hips square and level, standing straight up. right? Probably almost a little more, I'd rather have him more weighted to the amputated side, not a ton, but if I had a choice, like I don't want him leaning way on the sound side. And all we want to do when we take the scan is to scan from the lateral side to the posterior. That's all we need to see. We just want to see how much is it deflected and brought forward in that scan. I'm not going to try to teach you how to scan with this. I'm just going to do it quickly. But the built-in scanner works really well. Get about the right distance, start the scan. I'm going to look at the floor so I can see his foot. I'm going to look up, get his waist, and then I'm going to walk around him just 90 degrees. I'm going to look at the floor. I'm going to look up at his waist. I'm going to hit stop. So I don't need to pass it through his legs, right? I don't need to do anything like that. We're just trying to see how much is that foot deflected. And you can see in this scan, this is a perfectly good scan. All right. A lot of times it's better to turn, if you're trying to figure out if it's a good scan, I'll come show it to you guys in a second, turn the color off because it really reveals the kind of gaps and holes in the scan and so on. You know, we're going to be able to measure the deflection and so on. Really what we want to be able to make sure we see is the floor plane and so on. So good enough for this. I turned off the color in this one because sometimes color will hide the issues with the scan. So good to look at it in color. And then when you get to the next page, it's basically going to ask you to be like, hey, can you confirm all these functions about the device? So basically, once I say, yeah, I can see the floor plan, I see the side and left, go ahead and click check, and it uploads the device. So anytime you're actually doing a scan live, if you let us know when you're doing it, from 5,000 miles away, you hit the scan, I'll be able to see the scan, or our team will be able to see the scan. So if you have any questions, upload it, make a call, we'll check them, we'll be like, hey, best scan I've ever seen, or like, whoa, worst scan I've ever seen, try again. Just don't send the patient home, like, unless you're really confident with the scan. So that's our standing scan. And at that point, we say to the patient, hey, we're done. Have a seat. So we're going to take their leg and we're going to go into the back room. So the first thing we're doing is we're going to alginate the socket. We would, stand the thing up, get it all squared. We want to wedge under it based on the build height of this device. I want to make sure that wedge, I can see it I can see it outside the foot shell all the way around, right? Don't use a stack of quarters underneath it because we digitally want to measure it. And then what we have you do is we have you take some measurements of the socket. And basically we want an MPT measurement, SML measurement, and a depth measurement, right? These are basically that we're going to take digital scans and we just want some sort of reference from the digital world to the physical world. Again, if we measure it and like you measured it like 100 millimeters across and we measure it digitally and it's like 96 or it's 102, it's like totally fine, right? What I'm looking for is you measure 100 and we measure it at 125, right? Like something's gone wrong in the scan or the measurement and so on. And a lot of times we'll call back and be like, hey, this is weird, right? And they'll be like, oh, I entered it wrong and I'm gonna go to the next one. Okay, then we're gonna tape the socket up with alginate, right? We're gonna pour it, pipe in it, make sure that you got good cross members if you're gonna pull it out. And then once the alginate cures, right, it needs to be at least this high above. We have you take these scanning spheres that we give you and we have to stick them into the alginate, right, kind of on all four edges like this. The main reason is to trick the scanner into having something to anchor on as it's going around. It doesn't like smooth reflective surfaces. It does like things that it can anchor onto and be like, oh, that's cool, right? That's a neat thing, and I can latch onto it and not lose tracking. We just want 4 reference points because when we do this, when we pull the alginate out, we don't want to move them because then I'll have a scan with those balls on it with a socket, and I'll have it just with the device itself, and I'll be able to align them digitally really easily. What I'm doing there is I'm going to take one more physical measurement, right? Which is, and this is a really important one. Again, this would typically be up here in the alginate somewhere, right? We're going to take a physical measurement from the top of the heel wedge to the middle of this ball. Exact same purpose as well, right? It'll come out, it'll be 450, 600 millimeters, something like that. And again, if you say 600 and we measure 660, like we're going to give you a call. If you say 600 and we get 605 or 610 or somewhere in the 1 or 2%, totally fine, right? Because the ball itself is 20 millimeters across. Like what you think the middle is and what I think the middle is fine. So anyway, then we record the height, and then we're on to our prosthesis scan. This isn't a great surface on which to scan it because it's very uniform, right? This is great in the sense of like, this is gonna be really easy to scan because I can walk all the way around it, right? If it's on the edge of a table, you gotta kind of do this weird thing. But this is not a very good surface, like an old piece of wood, like a square piece of wood is great, right? It's got structure, it's got lines in it, it's got things that the thing can kind of latch onto. So when we do these scans, the most important part of this is, and again, usually there's going to be alginate here, is the things I want to see. Is I got to see the floor plane, I've got to see the heel wedge, and I've got to see it extended, obviously, all the way outside the heel, right? I want to see the medial side of the foot shell because we're going to pull a lot of alignment from that as well. And I want to see the scanning spheres up top, right? The 4 scanning spheres that are in the alginate. So I always like to start, I think it's always best, if you can put it on something you can walk around, it's easy, right? You don't have to do any logistics. But I want to show you the pace at which we do this. A lot of people, when they scan, at least with our scanner, they take way too long. They take like 5 minutes going around trying to get, like, you don't need that. It's like, we're talking 30 seconds to get all the way around the device. I'll show you exactly how we do it. So with our scanner, it's really, and again, you have other tools, but on the right-hand side here, there's like there's a red dot in the middle. You point it at what you want, and on the side, you see that green bar going up and down. You get that white ball like right in the middle, right? You want to make sure you're in the bounding box. You're going to click start. We have you look down at about 45 degrees, up at about 30 degrees, and then I just have you go around the device 90 degrees. Just do the same thing, down at the toe. Up at the top, at the pipe would be up there, right? Step around to whatever this is, 6 o'clock, down the floor, up at the pipe, sorry. Try to keep the ball, the target in the middle on it, if you can, and hit stop. So it'll generate the texture. So you'll look at this and be like, oh, that looks terrible. I think that's actually probably fine. If we turn off the color, you'll see it's a great scan, right? So what are the things we want to see in a good scan? I want to see the floor plane, see that really clearly, right? I want to see the heel wedge. I could see that really clearly, my phone, right? I can look up and I can see where the scanning spheres are. So if I were to take that measurement I was talking about, it's going to be easier for me to digitally measure from the top of that to that scanning sphere. This is a perfect scan for what we're talking about. And you saw the pace at which we did it, right? This is not, you don't need to smash the atom here, right? We're just going around, just trying to, all I really care about is how tall is it? Where is that height in alignment to where it is? Can I see the floor so I can take appropriate measurements? And can I see the heel wedge? That's it, right? So it doesn't need to be, these files don't need to be, 50 megs of, point clouds of, gigantic size. And again, when you submit it, it will ask you specifically, can you see the floor plane? Yes, I can. Is the wedge visible? Yep. Is a medial side of the foot shell, very important, that doesn't have holes in it. And then at least 3 scanning spheres visible. Yep. And again, just like the other one, it's being uploaded to us now. After you do the scan, you will, send us, hey, I just uploaded the scan. We can take a look at it. Once you do it one time and you see what it looks like properly, you'll never need to call us again, right? Sometimes it's just good to see what a proper one looks like, and then you're ready to move on. All right? Now, what we would do now is we would pop the alginate out. We would put it onto, a vise or, something. And again, exact same thing. When we're scanning the positive model, whether it's upside down, hanging, what we really want to do with this, because often it's the distal end we want, is that like, you want to kind of translate up, but you never want to look down, right? Never want to look straight down. So same thing, you're going to come around, look down at the floor a little bit, look down at the top. And again, not a great example because it's not really a socket, but you get the point of what it will look like eventually. And then we hit stop. I might not be my best effort, but it turned out okay. All right. In fact, it's pretty darn good. Important though, when you take the alginate out, make sure the scanning balls don't move, right? Because we want to use them for alignment. If they do move, it's not going to be the end of the world. We can align it. Load it. So it's going to upload. It's going to ask us the questions. Can I see all the scanning spheres? Is the trim line visible? Again, not an actual thing. No holes in the distal end. And then upload. This is the actual, what it would look like coming out, right? And then this is what the scan would look like, right? Of the device. Okay, that's uploaded. All right.
So that's the majority of the actual workflow process. Again, the Limber Clinical app is the key to making this a successful process, and it really is very simple. The Limber team have done a great job of developing the app so that it walks you through the process and gives you step-by-step instructions like you saw, and even won't let you move forward in some places if it recognizes that things aren't done correctly. Also, Limber can see everything in real time at headquarters. So if you're in New Jersey and you're scanning a patient and you need assistance, Limber is back in San Diego and they can pull up that scan and see like, yes, this scan is good, or no, the scan is bad. So their customer service is really second to none. And that is what I think has kind of set them apart, is that they go above and beyond for their customers. And that is at the end of the day, the CPO getting these legs for the user. For more information, visit limberprosthetics.com. Other than that, we'll see you next time. Thank you.